Hi everyone, and welcome to this short tutorial on playing 2-5-1 progressions on the guitar. The 2-5-1 is one of the most common chord progressions in jazz, and almost all standards will use 2-5-1s in one form or another. 2-5-1s can exist in both major and minor keys, but in this lesson we're going to focus on the much more common major 2-5-1. Firstly, we need to understand why this progression is called a 2-5-1, and to do that we can take a look at the C major scale. I'm going to play this scale all on one string for now. So we're going to build chords on each degree of the scale by adding two diatonic notes, one a third above and one a fifth above each of the scale tones. This sounds complicated, but actually it's fairly simple. Just means for the scale tone C, we skip the note D and add an E, and then skip the note F and add a G. And this gives us a C major triad. Then for the scale tone D, we skip the note E and add an F, skip the note G and add an A. And this gives us a D minor triad. And if we do this for the rest of the scale, we end up with a harmonized major scale. So in jazz we would rarely use these basic triads to play a 2-5-1, so let's add one more note to each chord, which gives us seventh chords. So back to our C major triad, if we skip the A and add a B, we have C major 7, and with our D minor triad, if we skip the B and add a C, we have a D minor 7. So theory-wise, this is the most basic form of a seventh chord, with the root, third, fifth and seventh all stacked on top of each other. On the guitar though, playing these chords isn't really ideal, so we would generally reorder the notes to create drop 2 voicings. I'll go into why they're called drop 2 voicings another time, but for now let's just take note that it's exactly the same notes we're using. We're just playing a couple of them in a different place on the guitar. So here's our original C major 7, and in drop 2 form, and our original D minor 7, and drop 2. So the harmonized scale now is going to sound like this. So we have 4 different types of seventh chords here. The major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and these are the ones we're going to use for our 2-5-1. And the last one is minor 7 flat 5, or half diminished, which will come in handy when we take a look at minor 2-5-1s. So let's now give each of these chords a number from 1 through to 7. In jazz notation we generally use Roman numerals to describe chords. Now to make a 2-5-1 we can take the 2 chord, D minor 7, the 5 chord, G7, and the 1 chord, C major 7. And this gives us our basic 2-5-1 sound. Now this is fine as a 2-5-1, but we have a huge leap here from D minor 7 to G7, and then back to C major 7. So let's take our G7 and take it down an octave to make it a little more comfortable. So we're just taking G, D, F, B from up here and moving it down here. G, D, F, B. Same notes, just down an octave. So now we have a 2-5-1 in C major with some voicings that work nicely on the guitar. So let's take a look now at playing the same 2-5-1 in a different place on the guitar. In our first form we have the root of our 2 chord D minor 7 on the 5th string, but we can also rearrange the notes in the chord to put the root on the 6th string, like this. this creates a drop 3 voicing. Again, I'll explain what this is later for our D minor chord. But just take note, it's exactly the same notes in the chord. D, A, C, F just gets rearranged as D, C, F, A in the drop 3 form. So we can use our G7 chord from before and then go to a drop 3 C major 7. So again, same notes as before. C, G, B, E becomes C, B, E, G. So now we have a 2-5-1 in C major in 2 different places on the guitar, in our drop 2 form, and drop 3 form. So now let's take a look at playing 2-5-1 progressions in a few different keys. B flat major first. So here's a B flat major scale. And here are the diatonic 7th chords in B flat. So remember, to make a 2-5-1, we take the 2 chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 chord. In this case, C minor 7, F7, and B flat major 7. So let's again shift that F7 down an octave for a smoother transition. So we get and we can also play it in the drop 3 form. Now let's do the same thing in G major. Here's the scale. If I play it the same way I did before, I'm going to run out of fretboard, so I'm going to jump down an octave when I get to C. And here are the diatonic 7th chords. Same as before, we take the 2 chord, A minor 7, 5 chord, D7, and the 1 chord, G major 7. And let's move that 5 chord to a more convenient spot. And now in the drop 3 form, finally, I'll show you a way of practicing these 2-5-1s in all 12 keys. Some of you may be familiar with the circle of fifths, so called because each note is a fifth interval away from its neighbour. So starting with C, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, E. So if we start with our 2-5-1 in C, you can see the root of our 2 chord D is 2 steps clockwise from C, and then the root of the 5 chord G is 1 step back towards C. So we can use this to figure out 2-5-1s in any key, and I would recommend working your way around the circle. For example, in starting with our 2-5-1 in C, we have D minor 7, G7, C major 7, and then the next key would be G. So the 2 chord is A minor 7, 5 chord D7, 1 chord G major 7. Next key would be D. So 2 chord E minor 7, 5 chord A7, and 1 chord D major 7. But so far I've only used our first version of the 2-5-1 with drop 2 voicings, but you can and should also practice with the other form. So if we carry on from there, the next key would be A, so B minor 7, E7, A major 7, and then E, so F sharp minor 7, B7, and E major 7. And you can also alternate between the two forms once you're a little more comfortable with them. So if I start again at C, D minor 7, G7, C major 7, and then going to the key of G, we have A minor 7, D7, G major 7, then the key of D, then the key of A, so B minor 7, E7, A major 7, and one more, E major, so 2 chord is F sharp minor 7, 5 chord is B7, 1 chord E major 7. So this will work the whole way around the circle, and you can practice playing these 2-5-1 progressions in all 12 keys like this. So thanks for watching, and I hope this took some of the mystery out of playing a 2-5-1 on the guitar. And when you're ready to take the next step, check out part 2 of this tutorial, which introduces some ideas about voice leading and how to add an extra note to each chord to create some different colors.